And so mine's going to be a little bit different of a route. I know she was abroad, so I stayed in Kentucky, my first internship. So a really good experience. I was in Kentucky Farm Bureau, so I'm going to kind of give you all a short taste of what I did in about 10 weeks this summer. Just for an overview, Kentucky Farm Bureau Federation is based in Louisville, Kentucky. So I was going there 4 days a week, 9 to 4, learned a little traffic. That was interesting. But I got to work with 3 different divisions: communications, organization, and operations. So I had 3 supervisors, which was something that I had never had an opportunity to do. I've had a lot of jobs over the years, but never one where I was going to 3 different bosses. Along with that, I worked with people within each division with different activities and events. So I was constantly calling on different people, learned to use my planner better than I thought I knew how, learned how to ask a lot of questions, those kinds of things. So that's just kind of an overview. Some main highlights, there was a lot of things personally and individually that I learned, but when it comes to events, I feel like that's the easiest way to show people kind of where I was and what I was doing. All in all, about 4 weeks of my time was spent in different places in Kentucky or out of office. So to begin with, Institute for Ag Leaders, that's IFL. It's a high school leadership program. It's in Murray State and at University of Kentucky. I got to help with the University of Kentucky one, so you'll see pictures of that in just a second. So that was spent on campus. Young Farmer Summer Outing was actually spent in the E-Town area. We got to tour a lot of different farms in the area, met a lot of families. You'll see some pictures of that too. Regional teacher workshops. We started in Lake Barkley and worked our way across the state and back to Lexington and Louisville. So I worked with teachers in a very rural setting where bringing ag into the classroom was kind of simple and almost expected. And then I got to the more urban areas where it was almost us convincing them to pull them to bring it up. It was a different take on things, something that I had never seen before being from a very rural area. So really interesting. Learned how to write a lot of press releases. I don't know if it was my forte. Dan Smaldo, who was my supervisor for that part, really worked well with me, started me with templates, and by the end he had me writing from scratch. So he definitely worked well, learning how to be broad, narrowing down, those kinds of things. So I also did a couple of meetings. Federation staff meetings were every month, so I learned really quickly that I was going to have to learn the names of the 30 to 40 people in the office on my floor. I saw them once a month, and everyone remembered me. I was the only intern, so I had to start remembering some names. So that one was a lot. I got to help present on a couple of things that I had been a part of, which was really neat that they let me step up. State board meeting was actually at the end of the summer, and that was with Mr. Beck and Mr. Haney, the executive vice and the president of the Kentucky Farm Bureau. They individually pulled me aside, wanted me to introduce myself. I can't explain enough how much a Farm Bureau is a family. They constantly told me that by the end of the summer, everyone's going to know my name, everybody's going to remember my face. They wanted me up there. I was just finishing my sophomore year of college. I still didn't know what I wanted to do, and they wanted me there, talking to as many people as I could, shaking hands. Not because they wanted me to network, but because they wanted people to see what they had seen in me, and they did that with every college student that was ever around. So it was really neat. And the district policy development meetings had a lot to do with, a lot of people know Farm Bureau for public policy, American Farm Bureau for how much they lobby and work in Washington. Kentucky Farm Bureau does a lot of that in Frankfurt. Although I didn't get to work with that division quite as much, Mr. Ryan Albee, who's in that division, helped me a lot in the last week, getting a feel for what they do. And at that district policy development meeting, I got to see how the farmer in a very small rural area got his word from that small town all the way through to Frankfurt through Farm Bureau. So it was really neat. Just to see some pictures. I'm not in many of the pictures. I was very much in the background. It's not an internship where they're having you push paper and do a lot of grunt work. I'm just one of those people that likes to do that kind of stuff. They don't mean all the box. I want all the box as a farm kid. I got tired of being in nice clothes in an office. I want to do things. So a lot of the pictures are in the background. I'm taking them by my own accord. So that's us at IFL at UK. So there's about 45 kids there. They still contact me all the time every time they're touring UK. They're constantly wanting to know what they can do. They love the University of Kentucky. They love Farm Bureau. They love ag. Not all of them work the thing for it. A lot of kids are interested in agriculture, and they grew up in a rural area or an urban area. They should learn more. Really neat experience. An age level that I kind of could relate to more because I'd just been in high school, so it kind of made a little more sense for me to work with them. Young Farmer Summer Outing was another age group that I worked with. So a lot of these people were late 20s, mid-30s, in that range. A lot of them with very small children. It's definitely an open place to have kids at Farm Bureau. There's lots of babies, lots of little kids running around. We had inflatables at one of the things. Very family-oriented. And as much as you would think that the program would be based on what they wanted to know about, a lot of it was more based on giving them time to meet each other. Because they wanted to know what Farm Bureau had to offer, but they more And it was neat to see an organization bring all these people together and not push on them for them to listen to what they were talking about, to let them mingle and understand the importance of meeting people within the industry. So that was really neat. We did a lot of farm tours and did some policy development there as well. Regional teacher workshops, like I kind of explained a little bit earlier. It was kind of neat because at the bottom is Miss Darlene. She's from Louisville, Kentucky. She traveled with us throughout the week. One of the nicest people I've ever met, worked the entire time with me. She constantly wanted to get people outside and not just keep them inside. So she was making these teachers in some of these more urban areas that maybe didn't want to be outside with the kids much. So the only time they wanted them outside was for recess. She was making them get off their feet, get outside, figure out how to connect everything to core content. If there's a lesson out there in ag, she's going to connect it to the core content somehow. It was really, really interesting. And then there's some teachers that are working on doing gardens. They're trying to implement that in a lot of schools, and a lot of this, our larger cities are actually funding those, which is something I had no idea of, which was really neat, and they were given a lot of insight on how to run those and work with those. So just some things that I gained kind of on a broader scale. I learned a lot about event planning, something I had actually never thought about before. I always wanted to go into sales and marketing, so that was the focus. I'm an ag girl, I wanted to go into livestock, I wanted to work with pigs and sell pharmaceuticals. So I worked for Farm Bureau, not really knowing what I was going to get out of it in that sense. I absolutely loved planning the events. I loved doing the summer outing. I loved IFL. Organizing those kind of things, being in the background was fine. I was totally good with that. So that was really interesting to learn. Communication, I always thought of myself as a pretty decent and comfortable speaker. I learned a lot of how to remember someone's name when you meet them. When you meet 30 people in one day and you're the only person they meet all day, they remember you. So you got to figure out a way to start remembering names. So I was constantly talking to people, constantly having to learn names. They were seeing me the next day and knowing mine. So it was small things like that that I learned. Press release composition I already kind of touched on. Maintaining records. So if anyone has a Kentucky Farm Bureau scholarship, I typed your name in this summer. There's a lot of them. So that was kind of neat. Like I said, it's not a paper pushing job, but that was probably the only thing I did that was very intern-like. And the entire time since the dinner, if anyone knows, I was apologizing every day, which is so silly because that's what I was there for. But I learned how to maintain records and also keep copies in different places, make sure I'm connecting with all my bosses. So that was really helpful. And then working with different demographics, like I said, I went from rural to urban, little small kids to high schoolers to young adults, and then to the state board meeting where we had people that had been on the board for years. So I learned people that were new to ag, that had been in ag their entire lives, that were starting farms, that were continuing family farms. I had a chance to kind of see everyone and learn to make myself relatable to all of those people to where we could have conversations and keep going with what we're doing. So the future, probably the largest thing I gained was learning that there were new career options out there. I came from a small town where everybody was supposed to be a vet or an ag teacher. So I got to college and I wanted to do sales, and that was kind of weird at first. And the longer I've been in school, especially at UK, the more opportunities I've heard about. Farm Bureau did nothing but advance those. I learned about interest in public policy, interest in event planning, interest in doing special programs, leadership organizations. All these places have opportunities that I had no idea of. So Farm Bureau really opened my eyes to that and is a good place to ask questions. Reinforce the fact that it's a family. The entire industry is a family, no matter how large a scale you go to. It's going to be a family type setting, just being in agriculture. And then it also taught me the importance of focusing on communications, whether you think you're a communicator or not. No matter if you were an IT person at Farm Bureau or you were the person that was leading all the talks, you were expected to talk to people. And I learned quickly that communication skills are not something to put to the side. They're going to be needed everywhere, no matter what job you do. So those are some of the biggest things I learned. Kind of an overview. It's a quick overview of a long 10-week internship. If anyone's interested in it, it's absolutely an outstanding opportunity, an outstanding organization. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. So that's all.